Hello again, everyone. So I had originally hoped to post a video about now on planting out my fall garden, but as I so often am, I have once again been thwarted by my climate. Here's the Sacramento forecast for the next several days. This miserable summer just refuses to die. I've lived here for a good decade now, and I honestly can't remember a heat wave of this extreme or this duration ever occurring in October. It's miserable. I'm miserable. It needs to end. Since most of my fall and winter veggies are cool weather loving, I'm pretty much hamstrung until conditions finally cool off. Unfortunately, these broccoli, kohlrabi, and Brussels sprouts I started about a month ago were becoming root bound in their starter pots, and I had no choice but to plant them out last week. I guess this will be an accidental experiment into how much heat brassicas can actually take. Additionally, I have these onions here beginning to languish in their starter pots. These are just aching to go outside, but not wanting to compound the trauma of transplant with the trauma of extreme heat. They're just going to have to wait. What I am going to talk about instead are my harvest totals for this year's spring and summer seasons, which I define as March 1st through October 1st. So my overall arching goal as a gardener is production. I'm on a bit of a mission to see if I can grow enough produce on my very small lot to take an appreciable bite out of my family's grocery budget. So, and even though I live within city limits, it still feels really good to have a modicum of self-sufficiency in my life. Ultimately, I would like to get to a point where I'm growing 1,000 pounds of food per calendar year. This would meet all of my family's non-protein food needs and leave a comfortable surplus to give to friends and maybe charity. So how did I do this year? Well, the short version is, while I grew more vegetables than last year in terms of total mass, my per plant yields were down across the board. And it was honestly only my tomatoes that did kind of decent. For the sake of brevity, I'm obviously not going to touch on everything I grew. I'm just going to focus on the highlights here, but I'm going to post a little extra breakdown in the comments for anyone who might be interested. As noted earlier, this summer brought record-breaking heat to the Sacramento Valley. 2024 has had something like 45 days over 100 degrees. I think it's a little more, now that we've had this October heat wave. And this had a definite deleterious effect on my garden. My cucurbits, squashes, cucumbers, etc. were hit especially hard this year. Blossom drop and spontaneous fruit abortions became all too common. My zucchini and standard cucumber haul was honestly negligible, and my total for all winter squash types combined was only 47 pounds, which is down from 68 pounds last year. The only cucurbits that actually thrived this summer were my Armenian cukes, which yielded a total of 32 pounds from a jumble of plants packed into a 2x5 foot bed. Likewise, my sweet potato harvest was a bit disappointing this year, with two 3x6 foot long beds yielding me only 30 pounds of mostly long, skinny sweet potatoes. I did 5 pounds better last year, and the size of the potatoes was far more impressive. I did have a somewhat decent harvest of regular potatoes in early April, with a haul of about 44 pounds of mostly small boiler potatoes. I actually don't mind small potatoes as they're easy to prepare for cooking, not a lot of peeling and cutting involved. We did okay when it came to carrots as well. A single 6x3 bed netted us 12 pounds. This turned out to be plenty. We actually still have a few bags left in the freezer from this harvest here. Eggs were another disappointment this summer. So first, we went through about a month in which our chickens were eating their own eggs. This issue took some effort to correct, improve their nesting box, and did some habitat enrichment, and that seemed to fix that problem. Also, the persistent heat definitely cut into production. I can't blame them. I would not be wanting to lay a bunch of eggs in triple-digit temperature either. However, it was a bit of a bummer. I honestly gave up on tracking how many eggs we got when I realized that, factoring in the cost of food, we were at about 50 cents per egg. So I kind of abandoned keeping track of how many eggs we were getting. Now on to what I consider to be the star of my summer garden, the tomato. So at first glance, it looks like I had a banner tomato year. I grew a total of 466 pounds. Now this compares to 224 pounds last year. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot of tomatoes. However, I have to keep in mind that last year I only put out 27 plants, while this year I put out 68. So in terms of average yield per plant across all varieties, last year, the number was 8.3 pounds per plant, while this year I only got 6.9 pounds per plant. In some ways, the lower per plant yield was a bit of a blessing in disguise. I became tremendously burned out on tomato processing by the time my plants finally gave up the ghost. Still, I'm actually really happy our pantry and freezer are now loaded with homemade tomato products. So every year after I total my harvest, I like to estimate both the total number of calories I grew, as well as a potential rough dollar amount for what I grew. Homegrown calories this year totaled 71,496, and that's just about enough to keep my family alive for all of 10 days. In theory, anyway, there's a little more to it than that. I'm not harvesting all 71,000 plus calories at once. It was more of a trickle in, but that's an appreciable amount for a tiny lot. Monetary cost is a little trickier to estimate. I don't calculate based on the cost of, for instance, heirloom tomatoes at my local farmer's market. Those things run like $5 or $6 a pound. So if I didn't grow tomatoes, I wouldn't be buying those. What I would be buying are whatever special deal, whatever was cheapest at, our local grocery store. What I'm really calculating when it comes to cost is money not spent at the grocery store. I'll also add that while it might be debatable as to whether or not it's economical to grow your own vegetables, I will die on the hill that avoiding the bastion of raw chaos and human efficiency that is the produce section of every single grocery store ever is absolutely priceless. That alone makes gardening worth it. Anyway, this spring and summer, I grew approximately $965 worth of produce, which again, that's not bad considering, again, small lot and also, the brutally hot summer, making growing conditions way less than ideal. Next year, what I am going to do is I'm going to do a little better job tracking my inputs, all of the stuff that I bought for the garden, whether that be fertilizer or, hay for mulch, etc., to see if factoring all that in, if my bottom line dollar amount is still, as decent as it has been this year. And I know that, it might seem a little cold, when it comes to gardening to focus so much on raw production numbers and dollar amounts, et cetera, but I kind of don't see it that way. This is fun for me. I tend to approach vegetable gardening the same way that I would approach a 1980s video game. I play and get a high score, and then I do it again to see if I can beat that high score. So next year, I really want to see if I can finally hit that 1,000-pound goal. That will definitely beat my quote-unquote high score for this year. So that's really all I have for today. I'm really hoping this weather cools off soon. I'm going to psychologically break if the 100-degree days and upper 90-degree days last much longer. Come on, we're in October here. I want to feel like it's fall, finally. Anyway, until next time, let's hope it all doesn't die.